Hey, my name is Bruce Westfield. Thank you for joining me for today's episode of Marriage Grind. Some people call me BW the Marriage Guy. You can call me Bruce Westfield. It doesn't matter. But either way you look at it, the message is getting across the world. I have a special guest today that I want to interview today that I want to introduce. Many people know him already. I'm gonna just tell you right now, they're a great couple. I have Jamal and Natasha Miller. How you guys doing?
We're doing good, Bruce. Good to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Man, I'm honored that you guys are here because you guys have been doing some great things. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I asked you today was a few questions about just the ministry itself. How you guys got started?
Yeah.
So it's a pretty cool story. Our story, where it kind of, I guess you could say, it blew up was at the point that we met on Facebook. But that is where, truly where our story kind of, really blew up. But then also I would say even before we met at Facebook, we both were living a very strong single life.
Yeah.
And we were just both going after God and chasing after Him. Didn't know when our spouses would come or how they would come. And that got us to the point to where we were just being content in our singleness. And we were actually in a prayer group together on Facebook. And that prayer group is what allowed us to meet one another. And I did a little Facebook stalking, and that's whenever I saw her in the Facebook group and was able to kind of get to end up messaging her to find out more about her. And that's whenever we began to build a relationship online. And the story goes to the point to where we meet each other face to face. And clearly it all worked out. We weren't catfish because now we're married with 2 baby girls. And it was at the point that we got married. When everything really kind of, folks were like, what's happening with you guys now? What's going on? Are you guys still married? And that's when I told Natasha, I was like, we should create something, for couples and singles to be an example, about what marriage is and how it really works and also our journey. And that's when we created Married and Young.
And the video was just supposed to be a way to tell all of our family and friends at one time, because we had so many people that were like out of state, in state, that wanted to know what was going on, and then it ended up going viral. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you guys, you also are a pastor.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Been in the ministry since I was 17.
Wow.
I preached my first sermon, when I was 16, and then I officially began to do full ministry, I guess the ministerial work, where I became a leader in my church at the age of 17, and then at 18 I went to got my degree in Bachelor's in Theology, and it's just been in ministry ever since.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And Natasha and Jamal just had a baby, a month ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
A month ago. So if you hear a baby in the background, hey, don't sweat it.
It's not sound effects.
Yeah, it's the real deal.
That's cool. And the good thing about all this is that it just lets you know that even though you're working hard, like, you can't forget your family.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they have their family on set too. It's amazing. I had the privilege of just meeting you guys a few times.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to meet you. I do want to ask you another question about family.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize what it takes to raise a family, as a young family, when you first get married. Tell us a little bit about what you feel it takes to raise a young family.
I believe that you really need to have a strong marriage. You really have to be able to communicate, even prior to having children, really knowing the heart of your spouse and really talking about those things. And we're not saying that you have to be married for plus years in order to start having a family, because for us, we were 1.5 years in our marriage and we were blessed to find out that we were pregnant. But I really believe that you need to have a strong foundation of love and why you're together, and then at the same time be able to talk about what is important to you when you do have children. What do we want to pour into our kids? What type of legacy do we want to leave? What is the purpose behind us, even having children? So I feel like for my husband and I that we have a good grasp on what we want to implement into our family life. It's not perfect, but him and I, we both strive to make sure that our children, even with the busyness of our lives, that we spend time with them, that they know that they are our number one priority amidst all of the craziness. And that takes, being intentional. Because I find times where it's like, I'm like, okay, babe, we got to have a family day where we sit down with the girls and we just don't do anything and we spend time with them. So I think it takes a lot of being, very intentional and communicating what values and what we want our children to really, be poured into about.
Absolutely. And as well, I believe that, when it comes down just looking at, God's heart towards family, what we find is, I always say it like this, man, the attack is not, from your marriage directly. It's the attack the enemy is coming after is what your marriage produces. And the Bible talks in the book of Malachi how God says that one thing he desires from a godly union is godly offspring. And I believe that God is the first thing we see when he comes on the scene. Is first he creates and then he begins to parent, and as a couple, our job is to create an environment, for our kids to be able to thrive and to be raised up to be the thing that God's called them to be. Environment is so powerful, and I think that's why it's imperative that couples, before they have children, make sure they understand one another enough to create an environment in their home before the kids come, that their kids can be raised up in a place where they see their parents loving each other, pressing after God, handling conflict with maturity, pressing into vision. All of those things. Before God created Adam, he created an environment that Adam could be able to thrive in order for him to be what God called him to be. And so that's what parents must realize, that as our chief responsibility is, how are we creating a place for our kids to be able to thrive and to do what God's called them to do? And are we hindering that? Are we creating a place, an environment that is, that is oppressive to our children? The Bible talks about that. Do not be oppressive to your kids. Are we creating an environment where our kids feel insecure and feel, limited in their ability to express themselves? Are parents at a place where they are, insecure in their own abilities, so they become jealous of their children when their children begin to do things they've never done before? Are we creating environments of fear where our children are fearful of us versus loving us, because every time they do something wrong, we're beating them, or we're threatening them, or we are, going over and above to show them that we have the power and the authority versus a place of safety? Those are the questions we must ask ourselves before we have children. What type of environment do we want our children to be raised in? Now, what do we need to do to create that environment? And I think that right there is huge, and that's why we're so, even for us, we say, man, we need to make sure this is a home that we pray in. We want our kids to know, we were talking about, it's a funny story, like, even like, what are we going to do when the kids hear us, having sex, you know what I'm saying? Hey, I want them to know what mom and daddy are doing, because at least they not already know. I heard my parents, you know what I'm saying? Like, look, I feel a little weird.
That one moment that the door opens,
you're like, hold up. And so, but it's powerful, because now they can see mommy and daddy, besides that moment, even just in the being public with each other, holding hands, kissing each other. We're creating an environment where our kids know love is displayed here. This is a place where you can express your love for one another in a healthy environment. So now I know my daughters won't go off and do it with some other boy, because they've seen their dad, a man, take care of their mom, and I can tell them the story of, I didn't do this before we were married. I did this after we were married, and this is why this love is so strong. So they're going to see that example, and now they're going to know exactly what to expect when they go outside into the world, and they know what they've seen here. They want to do that. They'll want to model it there.
I'm glad you brought up before you got married.
Absolutely.
So there's a difference between dating and courting.
Right.
And I know that you and I have talked about that in the first segment that we had a few weeks ago, or a few minutes ago. But now, I kind of want you to elaborate to everyone.
Yeah.
Like, what is the difference between dating and courting?
Awesome. I think for us, when we, got to know one another, we started the process of dating. For me, I look at it that dating is step one, where the word dating comes from the root word data, and the word data simply means to gather information, right? So if I go out on a date with you, my goal is to gather information about you in order to make a educated and wise decision about the future of the relationship. Now, the one thing I can say, once it transitions into courtship, that it's now a committed relationship. And so a lot of times we like to say, I'm not trying to date, because I'm just trying to get right to, it's like, no, but dating that's a natural process to get to know someone. The reality is you need to have self-control and just be able to hold up your end of the responsibility of, physical and sharing too much details, talking too many things out. And a lot of times in dating is that we don't know how to do it purposefully. And I think for us is looking at when you are dating someone, make sure you have an end goal in mind. What is the goal here? The goal is to what? Is it to have a good time, or is it to discover if this is a potential relationship for the future? And that's dating. And then once she made the decision for us, once we get to the process of dating and getting to know each other, then I was able to say, hey, I want to take this to the next level. I want to get serious and make this a committed relationship. And at that point, I was able to talk with her parents, her leadership, my leadership, and I was able to make that decision with the safety of others for us to be able to move into a place of a committed relationship, which I call courtship. And so the difference basically, I believe, is just the level of commitment, and as well at it all, the goal is when you're dating or courtship is to do it with God's heart in mind. That are we glorifying God in everything that we do, from hello, nice to meet you, to will you marry me? God needs to be glorified through every single part of it.
Yeah, and just to throw in there, with being purposeful and being intentional as well, I really, because I know for me, prior to meeting Jamal, that was the one thing that I really did, pay attention to, was I was like, Lord, I don't want to give my heart just to anyone. Yeah. And so that was it was always in the front of my mind, and that helped me to be able to have self-control and knowing that, okay, the person that I'm going to completely give my heart to will be my husband. So that even shows that even through dating and even through courting, that there is a way to, truly do it his way, to where you're not giving all of yourself, to where from, hey, how are you, all the way to, hey, will you marry me, that no one's heart has been broken. Because sometimes it doesn't end with, will you marry me? It ends with, hey, God bless you. It was a great time getting to know you, but I'm going to go my other way. So you can still complete that process and not be a broken person, and still be whole and still have your heart to give to your now husband. So I just think within the dating and courting, that with courting, you are more purposeful, to where you are being more intentional. You are using self-control, and therefore whatever the result is, you'll still be happy and still have hope.
Okay. So, and it's funny we're talking about this, because there's a lot of people who get in relationships and they get heartbroken, and then they start talking to the friend on the phone, and then they start getting the emotions stirred up. Why do you feel people struggle with being in relationships and ending them, and going from relationship to relationship to relationship?
It's a matter of wholeness. And so at the end of it all, we all come into this world broken. And the Bible talks about how we were formed and shaped in iniquity. And for us, the moment I talk about it, the moment that a baby comes out of mother's womb, it begins to wail and cry, because it's already showing I need something, right? And the reality is that is the cry of the human heart, is need. And a lot of times when you grow up and needs are not met on a consistent, matter, whether it be from from being a toddler, needs being met, to going to adolescent stage, needs being met, that you begin to become independent. And at the point you become independent, I can do it by myself, I got this, I'm bad by myself, nobody can help me, and you shut people off from helping you. And that is when you get into a relationship, you are already setting yourself up for failure. Because in a relationship, the communication is vulnerability, it's need, it's immediate access. I'm letting you into my life and into my heart. And the reality is that if you are a person that has not had your needs met over your lifetime, if you've never gotten healed from that and learned how to need people on a healthy way, when you get into a relationship, it's going to, the moment that your needs are not being met the way you want them to be met, or the moment that the other person, or if you don't know how to meet somebody else's needs, it's going to end. And then you're going to just jump and think, well, that person don't know anything, and now you're going to jump, you're going to jump to someone else, and you're going to repeat the cycle. So that's one element of a broken person. Another element of a broken person is a person that is looking for someone to meet those needs, because all their life they were spoiled and they never really learned how to be selfless. So for now they are selfish, and in a relationship it's all about me, myself, and I. Me, because they never learned how to serve and how to die to themselves. The Bible talks about it. Galatians 2:20. For I've been crucified with Christ. No longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. If you've never gone through that process before you get into a relationship, then your relationships are going to suffer. Because at the hands of you going into a relationship thinking that that person was created to meet every one of your needs versus learning how to get it from God, you better believe it. So there's every single person that, not every issue a person can have why a relationship fails, it comes back to something that person has not taken care of in themselves. Because if you're going to point the finger at someone else every single time, the reality is there's something you're doing to draw that type of person, number one, and then number two, say yes to be in a relationship with that person. And so don't point the finger at someone else. You made the decision to say yes. You got into a relationship. You got in bed with them, or you entertained them. You answered their text messages back. So there was something going on inside of you that wanted that time with them. Which to me, if it was a person that wasn't a good person or a person that would waste your time, then that to me reveals that there's something in you that needs to be healed or made whole.
Wow. Did you have anything?
For me, what's sticking out to me is a lot of women and men are very fearful.
Yeah.
And they lack trust in God. So therefore, when they meet someone, and let's say, you're in a place of desperation to where you want to be loved or you want somebody to be in your life, and so you will look over the red flags, and you'll look over what is not good. So to me, it's like you're going from person to person because you are fearful to actually stop and look at yourself and see, hey, these are the trigger points. This is what's causing me to be in unhealthy relationships. So I know for me personally that, that there were moments, even during my single season, that I did get a little bit restless. I did feel like, okay, I can be with this guy and I can compromise. I can, change him into the man that I want him to be. And during those moments there, it was like the Holy Spirit would come and say, hey, you cannot change this person. And if you get into this relationship for the rest of your life, you're going to be trying, to fix this one and try to be their savior. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that, So really, I think you have to sit back and you have to really evaluate and see, hey, how am I looking at this relationship? Am I looking at it through a lens of wholeness or a lens of brokenness? And what we try to do with Married and Young is for men and women to look at men and women and their next relationship through a lens of wholeness, because it prevents heartbreak. It prevents, and a level of wholeness, you're not going to be trusting God. You will not have a lack of trust in Him. You'll have hope in Him. And with that hope, He's going to guide you to where you need to be, and you're going to be able to make wise decisions. So,
absolutely.
Right.
Wow. That's amazing. So Jamal and Natasha, I know we talked about this the other day. You were talking about a new platform, a new university that's going to be online. Tell us a little bit about what the platform is and what you plan on doing through that platform.
Absolutely. So the problem that we ran into with helping our singles and our dating couples was that they would come to us in various stages of their journey, and they would come to us, and we would see where they were in their process, whether it be I just got out of a relationship and it was horrible, I'm broken, I need to be healed before I even try again, or it could be, I've never been in a relationship, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how to date, I don't know how to approach nobody, I'm not getting approached, or it could be, hey, I'm at a place in my life where I am ready to date. I've been through the classes, I done been through the books, I done read the curriculum, I done read the Bible from front to back, and I'm still single. What do I need to do? And so we'll find these people at various stages, and it was powerful because our course that we created called Becoming the One was a course that would take the single person that is ready to marry and help them get the right mindset and mentality towards marriage. But it would only do that. And we saw that we're like, man, we have so many singles that are in different places. How can we create a place for every season of a single person's journey to be encompassed in our, where we can help each of them and all take them to the one place they want to go, which is the altar, right? And help them get to that place. So whether you've been hurt, whether you've never been in a relationship, whether you're ready to date, we can take all of these people and help them journey across that. And that's when we came up with the concept of the One University. And the One University is going to be a 7-season plan where we call the Single Success Path to Marriage, where we'll take the single person and be able to see where season they're in, prescribe them their journey and say, this is the things you need to do before you say I do, and journey along with them. So once you begin into our university, you have a prescribed plan and also information to help you guide you along, to help you to complete each season successfully so you can transition into marriage ready, prepared, equipped to have a godly marriage that lasts forever. Now, there's going to be lots of things that happen within it that we're excited about, but the goal is that it can be not only information and powerful change, but also community.
Yes.
Because one thing we find is that a person can get information, but it truly does not become life-changing until you begin to apply it. And what causes you to apply it is to know that somebody is going to check on you. Somebody's going to be like, hey, so I saw that you read about, the 7 questions asked on the first date. Well, did you do it? So now you know what I'm saying? Like, girl, I asked 2 of them. I'm saying? What happened to the other 5? Well, I was just, he was just looking at me the right way. And it's like, well, can we teach? When you're on a date with someone, you need to be in charge of your emotions.
Right.
You should not be on a date with someone trying to just expect immediately that, that there's going to be just this rush of just everything being lined up and perfectly in place to where this is the person you're supposed to marry forever. There needs to be a process of detecting and learning. And so from us, that's whenever we were able to, really take that place to make the decision about this community. And we're excited about it. And we believe that God's going to use it to really help a lot of singles.
Amen. So you guys have written a few books that I kind of want to make sure that we expose for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Let me pick this up. So tell us a little bit about this one and this one.
So, okay, 25 Ways to Prepare for Marriage is the book that I wrote that really details my 2-year journey of being single. And I take the 25 most important things that I did to help me become the man that I am today, that I was able to transition into marriage successfully. And that book helps you to guide you from the place of agonizing about your single season and being confident and secure with your single season. And I'm going to let Natasha, she can explain the devotional.
Oh, yes. In our devotional, Our Time with God 42 Day, a devotional for couples, is a book that my husband and I, we had the honor of writing together. And in this devotional, we have each chapter is driven towards what couples are going through. It's a great book to be able to, sit down with your spouse and to be able to talk about real issues. And inside of there, we also have some amazing questions that will also draw you closer to your spouse to kind of spark conversation, because we see that with a lot of couples, it's easy to just get stuck into the mundane where you don't even know what to talk about anymore. So that's a great conversation starter.
Awesome. As you guys can see, Jamal and Natasha, they're doing some great things. They're adding a lot of value to a lot of marriages and even people who are single who need direction. So I want you to be able to look them up, check them out. Can you tell them what the website is where they can go to?
Absolutely. You want to go to marriedandyoung.com. That's where we have over 1,000 articles for singles, dating couples, engaged and married couples to be able to really help you and your spouse, or you as a single person, to continue to break through in your journey and continue to press into all that God has in store for you.
That's awesome. Well, I'm honored to get the opportunity to interview them today. I hope that you received, I said the word received, hope you received something today from just this session here. There's much more to come. Thank you guys for joining me today and joining them, Married and Young. We'll see you next time.